Conquest of Azeroth is a vanilla plus Ascension server where we have a chance to play with 21 brand new classes made from scratch but true to the Warcraft universe. It is still an alpha stage, but this week is free due to the Hell's End event, and everybody can try it out for free with selected spooky classes. Today we are going to come back to Koa to see what changes have been made and if people are really interested in it. So let's dive right in. We have 6 classes to choose from, and I have tried half of them. Necromancer, Cultist and Witch Hunter, which I will also made a video about, were pretty damn cool. So this leaves us with the Reaper, Venomancer and Blood Mage. As I don't really like spiders, I have mostly played melee previously, I have chosen to be a Blood Mage, which looks to be a really fun class thematically. So after equipping myself with the proper aesthetic set, I was ready to start my journey. Turns out that there are plenty of people in this area of the starting zone that could be really interesting. Since I did play on Ascension and Koa before, I have a couple of good quality things unlocked, like mounts or skill books, which allow me to learn spells from anywhere in the world. Blood Mage starts with a skill named Blood Moon Blast, which looks pretty damn amazing, throwing those balls of blood at my enemies. Although it was pretty weak, to be honest. I needed 5 cats to kill a regular wolf in the North Char Valley. Pretty cool thing about the event is that some of those creatures were actually turned into some ghosts or skeletons, which very nicely keeps up to the vibe that we are introduced to. Very good thing are the chat pop-ups that actually tell me about my class. This means that as a Blood Mage we will be using Rage, as we use health to cast offensive spells and we use then Rage to actually heal ourselves. And to do this we actually get a healing spell right on level 2. Pretty cool concept, to be honest. That during the event the XP rates are actually set to the Blitz-like. Very nice, because during the beta it was pretty high, same as on the standard Ascension version. We also cannot use any heirlooms or any auras or XP potions that are usually available on the main servers, which is pretty damn cool. I hope that this will stay for the release actually, as with so many cool new classes and concepts, it would be a waste to actually level to level 60 in a very fast pace. On top of that, in Ascension, after each quest we receive Adventurer's Caches, which will reward us with extra loot. This may seem like a very fun server-ish, I would say. It's actually not, due to the fact that the world is actually scaling to you, so this allows you to get equal gear to your current level. It actually makes the open world leveling very satisfying and rewarding. After the second quest, we also received a pumpkin bag, which is 16 slot bag. A great thing to actually start off some more space early. Very good quality of life thing. My damage output didn't go up that fast. Thankfully, Ascension has a feature to turn on in the interface option that actually allows you to hold N casting, which means that spamming classes, like this initially, have a little bit easier time and don't injure themselves during the process of spamming number 2 or number 1 or constantly on the keyboard on the very first levels. Though there are plenty of people around leveling in the starting zone, there seem to be no lack of monsters or items to pick up, which means that the respawn timers are adjusted accordingly to the amount of people using them, which is a very good sign. Level 4 we receive the spell Taldrann's Torment, which actually allows us to dot the enemy, but the damage will actually occur after 5 seconds. Which is pretty strange. It means that it's just an additional damage for me. Nothing really that crazy, a little bit more than the Blood Mage Blast, and it is actually improving the process of killing the monsters quite tremendously, so I take it. I'm actually still pretty scared because I see that the Necromancer next to me is literally one-shotting things, so I guess weakness is not the reason of the world being a little bit tuned up, the problem of my class itself. But I still had my hopes up. I did receive some pretty cool stuff from the early quest, so I was pretty happy about it, and was hoping that over time we will actually start to scale. I have finally found a Blood Mage trainer, which gave me a unique to Koa quest. He said that blood is something I should be well acquainted with at this point. Blood is life, but blood is, as you will soon learn, is also power. The quest is very quick, but it was actually a pretty unique and cool addition, especially after playing WoW for 20 years, as it's an 20th anniversary this year. Seeing all that new cool stuff and quests while doing your standard route of leveling is pretty damn cool. I was killing shit tons of defiers and was pretty damn pissed off already, and then eventually it turned out that there is a special NPC in there named Heather, drops the book, so I literally spent around 10 minutes just spamming blood and blast on bandits just to figure out that actually I need to kill a special NPC. That's the cool thing about doing things for the very first time and experiencing them hands-on. Very cool thing. To top it all off, I received an amazing Tome of Blood offhand that gives you +1 intellect and +10 health and no XP whatsoever, so that wasn't really something I was looking for. There's also a book named Sanguine Manifesto, which you can actually read and learn a little bit about your class. Very cool thematic things. I guess people have always loved the class fantasy and their quest lines, especially that some of them were really cool. So it's a very nice addition on Ascension part to actually expand on the class fantasy and theme. Level 5, I did receive an AoE fear, aka priest one, named Hemophobia, which is pretty damn cool. On top of the Northshire Abbey, where there is usually an NPC doing the quest, I have also found a necromantic ritual circle and a lady called Susan, which is probably also connected with other class quests, so those seem to be already quite expanded upon. Very happy to see that. Also, from what I've seen, the Blood Mage later down the line will be able to actually change form into a Worgen, so things can get really interesting later down the line. On level 6, we received information that balancing our health and rage will be the key to actually master the Blood Mage class. Also have received a defensive buff, defensive cooldown actually, 40 seconds that increase healing received by 35% and reduce damage taken by 15 for 10 seconds. The greatest thing was actually that Blood Moon Blast did receive rank 2, which means more damage. Eventually turned out to go up only by 10, which is not a really amazing amount. I would be really happy about it if it turned out that all classes deal damage like this, as it would mean that it's more balanced around vanilla. On level 6, after completing all quests, we seem to be ready to go with all pumpkin bags, cool stuff. We also even received more than we can use, which means extra gold. If you did not play co-op before, you can actually speak to the NPC and get a mount from him, which means that from level 1 up until you can earn 3 gold to buy first apprentice rating, you can use 40% mount speed. After buying the standard one, you can already enjoy 60, which apparently I can, thanks to selling the bags. So after finishing the introduction zone, we are finally ready to head further into the gold share. There's a very nice surprise waiting for us just where we leave the Northshire Abbey, as there's one more raiding trainer waiting for us in case we missed the previous one, and there's also Alliance Flight Master that can take us to gold share with a quick flight. Very nice convenience things, to be honest. Thanks to the Holo event, we received plenty of buffs to use, so we've got spell power, hit rating stuff. That can definitely help us with leveling. With my kind of damage, every extra spell power will be a big upgrade. First up, I headed straight up to the farms, which we all know and love in Elwynn Forest, and it turns out that there's a completely new quest that we can take from the farmers that are actually connected with the docks that weren't really used before. There was already people running around over there, so I didn't have to kill a whole bunch of mobs to actually get to the quest spot, which we just needed to take the crate of goods that were taken from the Macler. Easy, quick XP, and we get level 7. Unfortunately, no new spells, no upgrades, which means that we are being left with even more Blood Moon Blast spam. So we finally stepped up to the Fargo Deep Mine, which I was pretty much really scared of, because with my DPS, if I do get overwhelmed, it can get a little bit sketchy. I do have a fear and defensive cooldown at my disposal, so it should be fine. If I can have some suggestions to the Blood Mage spec, I definitely would say that this Taldram Stormant would be really nice if it would deal some instant damage initially, for example half of the damage, and then the full damage after those 5 seconds. It would add up some convenience layer because we would be able to tag monsters from afar rather than just coming in and meleeing them down. Also, it would mean a little bit more damage overall. And we are constantly losing health because of casting spells. So if somebody plans on doing any hardcore with this class, you better think it through. You have to admit that all the caches that we actually get from the quests make things pretty interesting, as we also get some very nice blue items along the way with spell power on low levels, especially now in the early game where you usually do miss quite a lot of stuff up until later levels. You can constantly switch gear and replace the very bad pieces, which makes it a little bit more interesting and makes you actually wait more for those quest completions just to get a little bit more loot. And everything is scaled up, so you always get up-to-date gear. After coming back to Goldshare, when we've been finished with helping on the farms, I did get to level 8, and I have received a Sanguine Rupture spell that blasts the target location with boiling blood, dealing 50 shadow damage up to 8 enemies within 8 yards. So 10-second, very nice AoE. Looks pretty damn cool, and seems to be doing quite a lot of damage. Next up, we head over to Crystal Lake from Goldshare, and it seems that we not only have to scout through the Jasper Lord mine, but it seems that there are also some spiders to be found in it that we have to collect some silk from, which also seems to be a completely new quest. The new spell seems to be a very nice addition, something really that powerful, but still helpful in the rotation, and at least has some AoE utility. But on top of that, definitely looks pretty damn cool. I did try to do some AoE pulls with it, which were doable thanks to our healing capabilities, but definitely it took quite a lot of time, and I think that ultimately were not really that worth it. But I have to admit that so far I do really like what I see on the lower levels. The gameplay is very active, you have to use plenty of spells, a lot of healing has to be done, you are not really that like powerful and OP, but you do have a lot of stuff to click, unlike in standard vanilla WoW. So this makes things a lot more interesting in my opinion. So far so good. I think that the latest changes to the world Ascension have made, and also some fine-tuning to the classes, which I cannot exactly say about the Blood Mage because I haven't been playing it, although the initial experience and the XP lowered seem to be creating much better experience overall. But of course, we're gonna see later down the line, usually the early game is nowhere near the levels of the higher levels, not to say end game, so I'll probably have to wait with my verdict. There also seem to be quite a lot of people down in the mine waiting for the spider respawn. Hopefully those people did allow the party. Maybe it won't be that hard to actually get those silks. After knocking out the spiders and getting the silk, we have came back to the Goldshare, get to level 9 with no upgrades or new spells whatsoever, so it seems that we still have to farm with what we can and what we have. So first I decided to go to the east, doing the escape quest with Mabel Mackler and heading for the princess, and eventually to further concerns with God Thomas, where there's plenty of quests to actually complete and get to level 10 fast. While running next to the Tower of Zora, it turned out that there are gnome servants around, probably from the wizard that is residing in this tower. 2 quests available, which for sure were not present here during the vanilla. They're connected with killing some of the Murlocs and additional quest for the Defiers around the lake in the northeast, one of which is literally called Master's Order, so that means Master's Bidding. Eventually, finally, while fighting the wizards on the Hero's Vigil, we managed to ding level 10, and we have been presented with this amazing looking blizzard-like talent trees. We can choose to either be a healer, which is a flesh weaver, casting damage dealer, sanguine, cursed, which is casting damage dealer and melee damage dealer. This means to be like a wolf and caster mixture. Looks pretty damn cool. But or we can become a tank in the lycanthropy tree. Let's see, I have chosen the caster first to see what kind of things we're gonna get. We get a life drinker, which literally heals and deals damage to the enemies. Looks pretty damn cool. And we've got blood feast, which drinks the blood of our dead enemies to heal us quickly. Those things look really damn good, to be honest. The life drinker seems to be like a missing piece for the DPS, as it was dealing pretty nice amount of damage and also healing us, so I was really pretty happy about it. But also deals damage. This means that our rage is being utilized properly now, dealing both damage and healing us. Also, in the northwestern parts of the Stone Cairn Lake, we have found a destroyed house, and in the house we have found a smudged note that needs to be turned to Imelda and Stormwind. I'm pretty damn sure that I haven't seen this quest before. There's also a stolen chest that requires James's keys. I wonder if this is also for some kind of quest. After I have received all the new spells and cool new stuff, I managed to knock out the quests pretty fast. Reached to level 11, which gave us another talent to use, and this one received a point in Sanguine, which allowed us to pick up Sanguine Blood Mage, which literally means that each time we use a spell that costs health, we receive thirst. That increases our damage but also the cost of the spell, and with things like Life Drinker, we remove the stacks of thirst to not get them over 10 to get a big debuff that actually hurts our damage dealt. This means like a balance mechanic and shouldn't be that hard to follow during leveling, but in endgame PvE, definitely have to have an eye on it. For the moment, it may seem that the damage increase does not really apply that much more damage, but I guess that over time, it will definitely accumulate and add up. Probably that max stacks, it gives you 50% more damage dealt, so it probably stacks very nicely. After that, I went for the Westbrook Garrison, but this time around I wanted to actually hoard the caches of loot so that I can take some agility gear and try out werewolf specs. On top of that, on level 12, which we received, we also received the Sanguine Pact, which boosts our stamina by 5%. That's because we're using health, can be pretty damn useful, to be honest. We accepted the Knoll and Hogger quest, but it seems that there was one additional one inside the Westbrook Garrison itself. Sergeant DeVries seems to have us collect some apples from the nearby farm. This quest was definitely not available in the standard vanilla, so we've got a very nice another addition to the initial Elwynn Forest zone. Haven't done quests on Ascension in a very long time, so even though I play on the server quite a lot already, they still seem to be surprising me, which is very nice. Especially that co-op probably will have this standard XP rates, which means that it can be pretty interesting. Eventually we had to kill a couple of bandits just to get the apples, like initial Millis harvest in the first zone. It's like a copycat of that quest literally. But it's still a new quest nonetheless and fits to the theme of Elwynn Forest, so I do like it. Level 12 we also picked up Lingering Blood, which means that our direct damage dealt has a chance to increase the crit chance against that creature by 3%. Nothing really that amazing. I definitely wanted something connecting my direct damage dealt. Also, while fighting gnolls, I have stumbled upon Hogger. I had to initially start fighting it, as there were more people willing to actually pick up on him. Funny thing is that he did die, but we didn't receive any loot from him. Especially the paw, which was the most important thing in this case. So I guess we'll have to wait for his respawn. My first attempt at soloing Hogger was actually failed. So I was actually pretty excited that he was that hard and I didn't have such an easy time killing him. The second attempt was a little bit more successful as I was more prepared to what's to come and how to manage my health, but to be honest, it's not really that easy because you cannot just spam damaging abilities and then heal with your standard heal, because eventually you will get 10 stack of thirst and your damage will be dog shit, so you will need to use a life drink here, which isn't really that powerful as it seems so far, especially that it's falling off damage wise. So I really like it that Hogger was actually a challenge for my class. It does leave some hope. Again, at level 13 we received a vampiric fang, which means that is our thirst consumable and regeneration next to the life drinker when we actually need more damage than healing. We get the most out of it when we start getting the stacks, and then it also deals the most damage, so it's a very nice instant spell. Nothing really that amazing. Eventually on level 13 I have finally decided to change the talent trees, go for the lycanthropy as a curse, which is a hybrid. It's kind of clunky, especially for leveling, because it requires 200 rage to actually get into the Worgen form. And the Worgen form is actually limited by time, so usually when you're just killing one mob and going off to another, it's not really that optimal. So I decided to give it tank a try. Oh my god guys, the tank, the Worgen looks so freaking dope. Look at this bad boy with 2 bloody swords. Pretty damn amazing. The cursed is pretty nice as well. Especially that we finally get as a caster a spell that is available to be cast while moving, so this helps a lot. Although the regeneration is still somewhat difficult at this point, so it's not really that great yet. Although damage with the accursed damn amazing, and I have to admit that it looks pretty dope. It's probably from the Shadowlands, but yeah, with those 2 blades, amazing stuff. Ascension is really no joke when it comes down to things like that. But yes, for the moment I have decided to stay with the Worgen form, as it's pretty straightforward to play. It's a tank spec, so this means that we can solo and maybe even do some dungeons and things like that. So I have queued up for a dungeon immediately to see for how long will we actually need to wait for the queue to show up. I was pretty lucky as it was pretty damn fast, and we actually showed up new custom dungeon from Ascension. I'm pretty happy about it, as we will be able to see how this fares. And the funny thing is that I tried to pull a group on the side, which eventually turned out with a whole wipe. Second time I tried to pull a little bit better, without the boss actually. It seems that this instance is no joke. I remember it a little bit differently from the Cataclysm, to be honest. Do remember that if you're doing this boss, to kill the Chains of Woe first, to be able to release, before this guy actually finishes his cast time. And we managed to actually get him down, even though it was pretty damn hard as we were pulling like the whole instance constantly. There was a funny guy in the chat that said that he was hoping for a dead mines, not something like that. The second boss was a lot easier, and it seems that the mechanic was to actually burst him down as soon as possible, but there probably are some more advanced tactics when it comes down to things like Mythic Plus, but we're not yet at that level. The third boss is actually pretty damn easy. 2 things: don't stand on the vents. He has an armor that reduces damage by quite a lot, and to be able to get rid of it, you need to actually pull it through the fire inside of the chamber. This is info for the tank, as it comes down to the DPS when tank is actually dragging him through this freaking fire. Don't be standing on the vents in the room, as they will actually explode with fire the very moment he loses his armor, so you can instantly die because of that. Eventually one party member did left after the third boss, so we were only left with 4 at the dog boss, and the dog boss also killed us, so the party eventually did destroy. Just by entering Westfall, I did receive level 14, but I also noticed that mana storms are actually turned off in the event, which is pretty damn good, because believe it or not, not really that great, especially during the leveling, because then the world will be completely empty. Eventually that turns out that the leveling as a tank is lackluster, of course, in single target, so as usual, but I could easily pull like a couple of mobs and get through to these, especially that my spamming ability is also healing me constantly, so that was even better. We do have some additional bleed damage, so it's not really that bad. And it seems that also our skills are based off weapon damage, or agility itself, like for example druid forms in standard Warcraft. So we are kinda reliant on that as well. Although our form does not cost anything, so we can easily, for example, just go out, throw a bunch of spells, then go into the form. So it does have some potential play methods to actually work around certain things, which is still great. I will definitely want to come back to the other specs as well, to see how they fare. Especially that the accursed one looks pretty damn cool, with like this periodic transformation, like a true hybrid. Also, the funny thing I noticed is that I cannot get on the mount while being shapeshifted, but when I do get on the mount, I can shapeshift on it without actually being knocked off, so that's pretty funny, to be honest. We actually do possess a very powerful ability named Golden's Rage. It deals almost 100 shadow damage, and on top of that applies dot that deals the same amount of damage over next 4 seconds. So it definitely is really dope and powerful. Although we do need to actually pocket, we need to score 3 criticals on the enemy we are currently hitting, so it's not really that easy, especially by having like 5% crit chance. Level 15 we did receive an interrupt, which is great, although in the Worgen form it is reduced to only 5 ranged. It's still pretty damn good. Eventually I did change the spec once again into the pure caster, although I did notice that every change that I do now is costing me around 5 gold. At the current time I had around 15, so pretty expensive if you ask me. After reaching level 15 and completing some of the quests, I have also decided to finally join the BG. You popped pretty fast and we were thrown right into the Arathi Basin. Straight up after getting in, I was reaped by a Reaper and a Necromancer, so that was a very quick death. And right after that the BG ended, so that was a very quick round. The next up we got into the Hillsbrad Foothills, more of a Zergish BG. So BGs with limited classes are kinda stupid because there are only like Reapers running around wreaking havoc. There's really not that much you can do about this. They just run in stealth and they have crazy damage when they show up. I was mostly just running back from graveyard to the battlefield. Eventually I did manage to kinda do something at least, and we did manage to kill a couple of people. But yeah, when 3 Reapers start to sit on you, then there's nothing really you can do about it. And all, I think that PvP in Conquest of Azeroth can be really great when all the balancing and stuff will be sorted out. I do think it's gonna be amazing, especially on the max level, as it was in alpha already. So we did eventually lose the VG, but it was pretty fun. Need to try it out on other specs. Especially that it seems that, yeah, without too many tools to run away or CC the targets, casters are in a bad spot except for like standing in the back and just shooting stuff at whatever Reaper shows up, so not much to do about it. Probably just better to go tank, or even the second spec, which at least has some spells while moving, which could pretty much help a lot. But it'll probably get better as we level up to the higher levels, so that's gonna be it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the core. Let me know if you would like to see more videos like that, and if you're actually even interested in seeing me getting to 30 and trying out some endgame, oh my god. Well, 30 stuff, we'll see what we can get. Maybe we can, probably not many dungeons to do, so plenty of PvP. So if you're interested in that, let me know. in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time.